What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kind of Funny Gamescast for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Forbes 30 Under 30, a.k.a. New York Game Awards nominated, a.k.a. TikTok influencer Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good day, Greg.
This is a great jacket.
Yeah, I
got here late. I got here late because Ben had his holiday performance. Killed it. I got videos for you. This kid singing, killing it out there. But there's some scuttlebutt about the outfit. The jacket's great. I don't know if that was what they weren't saying or they weren't saying, Mike.
No, well, all I heard was that I look like I'm Todd Howard trying to market the next Indiana Jones game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I told him. Yeah. And then the Reddit's got him looking like Luther from Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got him.
All right.
And so I've not gotten the kind of feedback I was looking for.
This is a great outfit, a great jacket, great everything.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Where'd you get the jacket?
TikTok shop.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm trying to work on. I want to figure out how to get the link to have other people buy.
You have 40 days left of TikTok.
Yes.
You better make it happen.
So I'm trying to make the money. I'm trying to make the commission,
Sure.
but I'm not. I put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse. I put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
I didn't figure out how to link my account or whatever.
Yeah, you
to
just
then
jumped
sell
it.
them.
You just
I
jumped.
just bought the thing and I wore it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I like it.
Well, from now on, if you buy a leather jacket that's brown with a hoodie in it, everybody, you got to just say, Blessing did this. Do it that way, you know?
Oh, it's a hoodie inside of it.
Well, it's
like
a hoodie.
built
It's like an
into it.
attachment.
It's built
I
in.
can
Okay,
I can take it off if I wanted to.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can take it off.
Yeah, I'm not trying it, but there's an extra zipper here.
so it's
Greg,
just,
you see
oh,
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just, but then you'd have just like
It'd be just a leather jacket.
towel, of like hoodie towel, because it's not a full blown
Fabric.
hoodie under there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have a hood right now.
it's hot. I like this whole outfit. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bless, love this whole outfit.
Next to him, of course, is the master of hype, Snowbike Mike.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me on today. Very excited to talk Gamescast with you. And Blessing, I love that you've grown your hair out. I cannot wait for 2025 when we do something cool with
We're
it.
gonna do something cool.
Shave it.
No,
Stream.
that's not what we
Put on the 10th anniversary wheel.
I like what he's saying. I like what he's saying.
I do want to compliment your champion sweatshirt. You know, I'm always a fan of this one.
Thanks,
too, Mike.
homie. I appreciate that, Greg. I'm going to go buy 4 more of them because you gassed me up about
That's what I like to hear about.
know
All right. And rounding out the group, of course, is the Hispanic heartthrob Texas treat Latino Heat, clicking heads and ripping them to shreds. The globe-trotting, headshot, and 3-point shooting, rootin', tootin' Nitro Rifle from Twitch.tv. Andy Cortez.
You know, one extra game was not needed last night. I don't know why we felt like we needed to play an extra game of Marvel Rivals.
It was good, though. We stayed together. It was really nice. We spent time together.
We had such a good run, and why not end the night? Why not go back to the hotel room when you're up in the casino? You know
You're
what I
up
mean?
$30 on
Yeah.
blackjack.
But then you got this son of a bitch that just says, you click one more game, we're on a 3-game winning streak. Why would you stop right now? And then we got trounced.
yeah.
But
Man, we got embarrassed. I'll tell you what. But it was so much fun, Greg. Like, the cool part about it wasn't me instigating it this time. It was the jabronis, right? The whole team was rallying behind one more game, Andy. You can do it. Oh, I got a headache. I got to go to bed. I'm going to be on Gamescast. No, Andy, it's only 10 o'clock. Let's go till 11. Let's go to
gotta be on
11:30. Why
Gamescast.
not? You know what I mean? And you just kept pressing that button, and I'm so proud of you for that.
I think you kind of gas up the jabronis to then start you can't do that, Andy.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
fuck us on this, man.
It's a family.
He's big timing us. It's just
Big timing.
the big timing conversation
Yeah.
just would not stop last night.
It's funny you bring up big timing in Marvel Rivals.
Big time.
Because what I'd like to do is put out the call to every one of our video game journalist critic friends. Get your fucking shit together and review Marvel Rivals. All right? The Kind of Funny Fantasy Critic League we are hurdling. I put it on I put it on Friday's Gamescast, the finale of the thing, because I thought we'll have all the reviews locked by then. Right now, for Marvel Rivals, there are only 8 fucking reviews right now, and it is not helping me. And there's only one that's really bad, and that's what's fucking everything up. So Jordan Midler, stop shaving your fucking head. Review Marvel Rivals.
You fucked yourself on this.
Lucy James, Tamor Hussein, whoever the fuck is running goddamn GameSpot, stop giving out Game of the Year not even halfway through December. Review Marvel Rivals. Like, I don't understand what the fuck is
Oh, you're
happening in
finally
all these
getting
places.
points for it. Look at
Wow,
that,
7
Greg.
And I don't.
points.
And I need 11 points, not 7 points. And so in the same
that's an
review,
11-point game.
Jesse Norris at Xbox Era, retract your review. All right, I don't need a
wow.
7.5. Josh Broadwell at Games Radar Plus, retract your 2.5 out of 5 stars review.
2.5 out of 5.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's insane.
Marvel Rivals wants to reinvent the. I don't even know.
Okay.
We're on too far. We can't appeal to that side of the internet.
I'm kidding, Josh. You do your thing, Josh. All right.
we do.
I just care about
First of
scores
all,
right now. It's turning me into
please
somebody I don't want to
care
be. It's turning me into somebody I don't want to be. I just don't want to lose
The guy
the
who just
fucking
reviewed
tip.
Indiana Jones, by the way. Not other reviewers.
Bulletproof. And of course, as I look into the sea of Indiana Jones criticism, I'm just so happy to see my kindred spirit, my connected person, Janet Garcia, putting up clips of how mid this game is. And her and Isaiah laughing at how bad it is. And I'm like, thanks somebody for seeing it. And again,
Get good.
it's okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. But come on. Game of the year? 9s?
Game of the year might be pushing it, but it's great. It's a great game.
Marvel Rivals minimum is an
Well,
8 out of 10.
you said 8, so I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
It's a Rainbow Six Extraction again. Where it's like, oh, that shit got a little bit more points for Mike. You know what I mean? He's got 7. Rainbow Six Extraction, give me a couple more points from that last year.
God, Extraction, what a
Remember
good
that?
game.
Well,
you know?
come on,
Extraction
man.
was a good game.
Not-
But Marvel Rivals, we have the whole team working. We got comp in now. There's competitive
playing
mode now.
comp.
Yeah.
Where you start off at Bronze 3. We all got up to Bronze 2 except Chris Anka. And Chris Anka said, Andy, I'm 7 points away or whatever from ranking up to Bronze 2. Just play one more game. And Mike was, oh, don't fucking big time us, Andy. Don't you fuck us on this, man. We need you to hop in. So we played one more game, and this stupid Hella in the back line just sniping from everywhere.
Yeah.
The Captain America was a nuisance yesterday.
Captain America was crazy.
Jesus Christ.
I want you to know I downloaded Marvel's Rivals. I jumped into Marvel because I was like, I got to see Cap.
see
Cap
Cap.
wasn't available in betas or whatever. I jumped in, played about 2.5 minutes as Cap, and then I was like, bye. Delete, out, uninstall the game.
Didn't
I'm like,
finish the game.
I'm never going to like this.
Left them with an incomplete squad.
Yeah, that's
So
on them.
fucked up.
That's on them for not making a fun game.
But can I put my name in the rotation of like
We'd love you
people
to.
to text when you guys are playing Marvel Rivals?
Okay.
Because I'd be seeing. I feel like Squidward looking out the window. Because I'm at home. I'm just opening Magic packs.
You're just streaming Magic.
I'm like, I wasn't even last night. I was just like fucking opening Magic packs and trying to figure out what deck I want to go with. I still haven't figured out who I want to be my commander yet.
like that.
I'm zeroing in on. There's this card Zimone. I don't know if you know about Zimone.
No.
I just like the design so much. So I'm like,
Oh.
you might be my commander.
I'll tell you what, me and Barrett started opening up the Assassin's Creed packs last night.
Yeah?
Whew, it
Yeah?
was exciting to see some of those.
But I was doing it. I was watching you guys stream, and I was like, man, I want to be where the cool people are. I want to be with them.
Leslie, we'll hit you with
We'll
text.
put the
me
battle
out.
signal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to play Fortnite together, though. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, come play Fortnite with us.
5v5.
I'll play some Fortnite.
First person. What do we call
I'm
that?
shocked you're gonna do
Tactical?
it.
Ballistic?
It's tactical. I mean,
Yeah.
the name of the mode is ballistic, but
Yes.
it's a tactical
shooter?
Counter-Strike, Valorant sort of thing.
I'm really excited to see it. This is going to be a good time.
Yeah, 100%.
I think this is one I'll be great at. I'll be God noticing.
I got a good feeling that Greg Miller.
What I got to do is just be.
It's gonna be
Is
great.
Nick playing with us, right?
Yeah.
I just got to be better than Nick.
That's all you
I
gotta
just want to
do.
be better than Nick. You know
Not
what I mean?
hard.
Yeah.
Not
Well, I know
hard.
that's the hope. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the stream coming up later. But right now, you're watching the Kinda Funny Gamescast, where each and every weekday we talk to you about the biggest topics in video games. They could be reviews, previews, or just topics we need to get into. If you like that, we'd love you to support us with the Kinda Funny membership. Of course, you can pick up a Kinda Funny membership on YouTube.com/KindaFunnyGames or Patreon.com/KindaFunny to get all of our shows. That's more than 20 a week, ad-free. The ability, of course, to watch the afternoon podcast live as we record them, and get your daily dose of me, Greg Miller, in a series I call Gregway that I often record from my car, but sometimes Mike and Nick record from the kitchen, 2 extra ones, just because Roger froze bagels, and it's got to be a thing. Great episodes, though, Mike.
Thank you, Greg. We love giving the people what they want, and that's more content.
Yeah, bagging on Roger specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, if you have no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. Like, subscribe, share wherever you get the Gamescast. And of course, remember, we're a small business all about live talk shows, which means if you're enjoying this, there's plenty more to enjoy. Before this, of course, you got Kinda Funny Games Daily. It was our last minute Game Awards predictions. After this, you're getting our stream of Fortnite's new first person mode with a big old team. We're excited to dive into that. Of course, tomorrow is the day. It is the Game Awards 2024. As such, we are running a different schedule. That's right. Programming will start later to go later. Of course, you can catch tomorrow Kinda Funny Games Daily starting at 1 p.m., followed by a stream, followed by our live reaction to the Game Awards. And then after that, our post show for Gamescast. So you can click it on, kind of funny, and stay there all day long, or catch up later, where again, like, subscribe, share, leave a review, yada, yada, yada.
Nice. Marvel Rivals real late then.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Real
get to sleep
late.
in. Yeah.
You get to sleep in a little bit.
Nice.
But we could play Path of Exile 2 instead.
I don't have it though.
I don't know how many more fucking times I can say buy it and expense it. Buy it and expense it. Oh, your eye popped. You got a Greg Miller eye going on.
My eye popped, yeah.
Oh no.
I don't even know how.
Probably
It
from
doesn't
hours of
matter. It
Marvel
doesn't
Rivals.
I think it's just
Yeah.
gaming,
I was
honestly.
gonna guess pooping.
I'm insane.
That
Your
actually
eye
can't happen
popped?
too.
No, I have a very
Oh, I see it.
I have a very regular poop cycle.
Yeah, but I mean, so if it was irregular and you had to push real hard, blow out your blood vessel.
Boom.
It
I
definitely
knew a girl
wasn't
in high
that
school. She
regular.
puked so hard she popped all the blood
Holy
vessels in both
shit.
her eyes.
Pete.
Puked.
Oh, puke. I thought you said pizza.
I heard
holy
Pete.
shit. Yeah, I was like, oh my God.
Anyways, if you remember, you can get today's Greg Way. It's all about getting divorced. And then, of course, you can catch Craven stuff in the afternoon.
Everything okay at home? You good?
Is it or isn't it? You'll have to
Wow.
find out by watching
Damn.
Greg Way. Give me that $10. All right. Let me tell you, the second a studio apartment's not going to come cheap.
He's on one today, ladies and gentlemen.
I warned you when I came in.
is fired
I
up.
warned you when I came in. No, I'm not getting divorced. Don't worry. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs and Delaney Twining. Today we're brought to you by Empty Reel and Aura Frames, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be topic of the show. As I just mentioned, the one, the only Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's, the Keighley's, are in fact tomorrow. We are excited as always to live react. This is the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards, of course. Very exciting. Of course, I'm the only person who has ever won a Game Award. No big deal. Thank you, Michael.
I mean,
Is that why you haven't been here to react in about a goddamn decade?
Yeah.
How dare you?
I mean, they want.
Well, he's got to go.
I got to
It's
go
a
down
big
there. I got to
deal.
press flesh.
When you're a winner, you have to be there.
And I hope you know this year. I was like, you know what? I want to come up here and support Andy. Last year was just pitiful.
It just
Seeing just
seems-
you and Tim here.
It just seems like it's always been the big timing, you know?
Oh, he's big timing you. Okay, he's big timing.
But now,
Wow.
we're all on the same level. We're all going to be
Well,
here.
not really. I won a Game Award. Bless his future class.
He's future class.
I was in
Class.
Times
I was also
Square, you
nominated
know?
for the New York.
Yeah, but
Awards.
so is that guy dressed
Yeah.
as Elmo, but we're not like all excited about him. You know, they got all the tourist traps. The people who just dress as the characters. Take a photo.
Got him. Oh, man.
As it is the 10th Game Awards, there's a lot of things we already know is going to happen. Of course, we're reacting. That's exciting. Everybody will be out there. Expectations are going to get super high. There's no way they'll be possibly met. During the show, everyone's going to sour on the show and start being a bunch of really negative Nancys on content. And then the next day, it will just be filled with the Twitterverse and the blue skies of how much they hate the Game Awards and how terrible the Game Awards are. Nothing ever works and yada, yada, yada. There is no discourse I hate more, and that's saying something in gaming, than the storm that starts during the Game Awards that carries over to the next day. Oh, it's just ads. Oh, it's just this. Why isn't it like this? Well, why isn't it like this? Well, why isn't it like this? And my argument every year is the same when it gets to the really, really negative part of make your own fucking show then. Go make your own thing. This is what Jeff has done. Why every fucking year Jeff comes out and shows us his zebra. And every year somebody goes, well, I want it to be a camel. Well, guess what? It's a fucking zebra. All right.
Yeah.
So this fixing the Game Awards topic, and we've had conversations on content, off content, we're on the same page, is us talking about how we would tweak the Game Awards. Correct, Blessing?
yeah,
It's us talking about a show we enjoy, that we understand, but I don't want anyone to come in, and again, everybody can do whatever they want in terms of how you want to fix the Game Awards, what you want to talk about. But it gets me so angry when everybody's like, well, fucking, I just want devs on stage. And I always go, well, that's the DICE Awards, and I host them, and you don't watch them. Because there are no big announcements, and there are no super secret
Right.
games that get announced. or
my
whatever.
first note here is we should have more we should have more devs on stage.
But now, hold on now. I'm not saying, that's not me saying, I'm talking to the people who are saying there should be no ads, there should be just this, it should just be about devs. There's a conversation here of salt and pepper and what we're doing as we season the Game Awards and whatever. But I think that there's a lot of people who want to
paprika.
throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I want to make sure from the jump, I make it clear that I hate that fucking conversation, and it drives me crazy when people the next day are like, this is how it should have been, and they should have done this, and Jeff's horrible, and da-da-da-da-da. I digress.
I mean, I always have such a great time hanging out with you all, and you know.
But
Well,
again, I
they're
think
not
that's,
here. Don't,
and again,
don't include them.
Oh well,
Yeah.
You were sick last week.
Yeah, but I've been
year.
here the past couple years.
Yeah.
what are you wearing tomorrow? Not you. I know, you just insulted me. Bill, Andy, who's my friend now on this.
I mean, I have multiple jackets I bought on Amazon when we were doing the KFFL, the Kind of Funny Football League, and they've been sitting in the closet. They're super wrinkly. Who knows if I'll bust them out?
Sure.
I want to wear a coat, at least a jacket over a long sleeve button down.
I'm gonna wear my mom was asking me about my blue suit from Tim's wedding, and I was like, I'm gonna wear that tomorrow.
Maybe.
I'm gonna wear
Hey.
that.
Damn.
Hey.
Maybe I'll do that
Hey.
too.
Okay, good.
Maybe.
So anyways, let's dive into this conversation. I don't even think so much about it's not about fixing the Game Awards. And maybe it is for you guys. And I don't ever want to take away what you're going to talk about. I just don't think the Game Awards are broken. I think this is more augmenting the Game Awards or the little tweaks, at least in my head. Because again, I don't want us to deviate so much where we are just planning the Kind of Funny Game Awards, which is a completely different show.
That's the Smileys.
That is
Yes,
Smileys.
it is. You do a great job with that.
Yeah, only me.
Wow.
Just me.
Well, first off, don't get me started on Andy. I've never met, seen, heard.
Play the music. Play the area agreements
Yeah,
music.
let's get the.
I just it just boggles my mind.
What's up?
That Andy is so open about how aloof he is.
So talented.
We're on the fucking Kind of Funny podcast. Great episode. You guys killed it or whatever. He's just like, oh yeah, I almost forgot about that demo. I was like, I want to know why you're just admitting this. Why are you admitting that you didn't? And then it's like, oh, and he was late by 3 minutes. Like, why is everybody just blowing up each other's spots on this content?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why.
I didn't even know I was a part of it apart from the couple emails. Let me say that. I mean, if you're going to blow up a spot, let's blow up a spot. All right? We're going to blow up a spot. I didn't know I was a part of this until like a couple of meetings ago.
There's a big email that says, hello,
meetings.
Mike
That was
and
2
Andy.
weeks ago.
We gotta change the headline to How to Fix Kind of Funny.
Yeah.
That's where this is going.
Yeah.
This is the airing of grievances episode.
I got there in time, but here's the thing, though, Greg. I may have been 3 minutes late, but the presentation was about 40 minutes late, so we were fine.
You
We're
crushed
right
it.
on
You're
time.
fine. Don't worry about it.
I like to make sure I'm 5 minutes early, Greg,
Yeah.
because if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late.
This is, of course,
So he was technically 8 minutes late.
we learned
just
this
so
in
you know.
Falcon the Winter Soldier.
Yes, we did.
You know what I mean?
Why are you going harder at me? What the fuck?
Trying to stay on his good side.
Remember when he went to Japan and was gonna bring us gifts and then went, oh, never mind.
Didn't
But I'm
call
gonna
me
tell-
when he landed.
I'm gonna tell a story about how I meant to get
Didn't
you
buy
guys
me
gifts.
cool video games out there. It's
I mean,
like,
I have
but he
one.
left his jacket.
I have
and so
one
we should
goddamn
care.
less jacket because Blessing wanted a stupid souvenir.
And
Like,
where is my souvenir?
it
And,
just didn't. Blessing, the line was long at the Pokemon store. Okay,
And whose fault is that? You had days there. Days.
You were there for
You could've
9
gone.
days.
we were on a tour. You know,
And during this tour, just real quick, what were you touring?
multiple. Dotenberry.
What's that?
Just like a little. It's a kind of a general area.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
And there was no tourist shops in any of these places you were going through? Get Blessing a cool pair
no
of
t-shirt
chopsticks.
that says I love Japan or anything that I could have worn.
Well, I just didn't have room for all of that stuff. You know. I don't want to get stupid like a little.
Let's get
keychain.
back
It's
on
just the
track.
fact that he told the story
Let's
to try
get
to
back
get
on
credit.
track.
And I'm
Blessing,
sitting here with no souvenir.
It's a thought that counts.
Blessing, I'm sorry this is happening to you.
It's so-
I'm sorry,
it's
Andy,
up.
big time you. There's a lot of there's a rash of big timing going on in the office lately.
It's really messed up.
Blessing, I want to get back on track because whenever we do talk about fixing the Game Awards, changing the Game Awards, one of the things you bring up that I think is a salient point for 2024, 10 years after the start, let alone Spike TV Awards and everything else, is categories.
Yeah. Oh, this is the conversation we were having when me and Mike were on KHD and we went category by category and we had a big debate about quite a few of the categories. I think the big ones being action and then action adventure. And I think that conversation then bled into Gamescast, which bled into the next KHD about all right, can we fix this? Can this be better? And this is going back to kind of your preamble talking about what this topic is and why you want to do this topic now, right? Of the Game Awards, what happens every year after the Game Awards. I think I'm one of those people that is of the mind of I think the Game Awards could be better, right? I don't think it's broken. I don't think Jeff is doing a bad job by any means.
Exactly.
But I do think that there are a lot of things where me personally, I look at and I'm like, ooh, I don't like how this happens. I don't like how.
And to be
how
clear,
this goes.
I'm in that camp as well. I
Yeah.
think there's augmentations, but there's so many people who want to blow it all up. But it's like, well, no, this is the zebra.
And that's my thing is I don't think you blow it all up, right? Because it is what it is. It is. I compare it more to the VMAs than to the Oscars.
of course.
Right? This is a poppy. You're coming in for the flair. You're coming in to have fun. You're coming in for the performances and all
The
this
guests.
stuff. The guests, right? I look at the DICE Awards or I look at what are the other?
Hosted by me, an unemployed Stella Chung.
I look at the BAFTA. I look at the BAFTAs.
I'm going to introduce her that way on the DICE Awards.
Oh God! I look at the BAFTAs to be like the Oscars, right? This is the more formalized.
Yeah.
Hey, we care about this a lot, right? Not that people don't care about the Game Awards; they obviously do. But the Game Awards is more so for I think fan engagement and audience engagement as opposed to a formal thing. So I think looking at it through that lens, I think that then brings us into what we can look at. And categories is the one I talk about probably the most because it's the one I care about the most because I think it's the most fun thing to break down as far as how do you represent game categories in a way that honors the games industry, in a way that spreads the love in ways that matter, in ways that the audience is satisfied with. And I went through my original pitch for this episode was that we all bring our own pitches for what the categories are. I ended up just doing my own, right? Because I don't know if other people had the bandwidth or other people cared enough to like go through and do that. But I did.
Well, I want you, and before you dive in, I want you
Yeah.
to start with what categories you think need to go away, why they need to go, why the categories are outdated.
I crossed out like a number of them,
Okay.
right? And I'll go through them, right? Best performance. That best performance stays. I just in my version of it, I have best leading performer and best supporting performer.
Which I think I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Is I think as game performances have become so much more important, getting more chances to honor those roles is a great way to do it.
Exactly, right? I think, video game narratives, video game stories, video game performances mean so much more nowadays than maybe they did 10, 20 years ago in video games that I think you want to spread the love a little bit more there. Best fighting game, I have italicized. I don't think you get
That's an easy change.
Yeah, well, what's your easy change?
Italicizing it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one that I have like you don't get rid of it fully, but I think that should be a rotated category every
What
year.
does that mean?
I think you don't need best fighting game every year because there are a lot of years where best fighting game the category is filled with like just duds, right? Even this year, the fact that Multiverses makes it in, I'm like, well, if we're in a year where like you have bad nominees that are making it into the thing, maybe there aren't enough games that fill this category, and I would rotate it with like.
But then the argument becomes, right, if you were to do that, is it the Game Awards judging, and is that what if there is one great fighting game that year, but
that's where it comes into. I think there's a deeper conversation there, right? The way I would have it is I'll leave it up to Jeff and maybe like a smaller committee of people to look at the year and go, all right, what's like the rotating category you want to bring in? So one of the ones I have here is best survival, because guess what? In 2024, survival games they're all the rage, right? Like when we talk about games like this year, you're talking about Power World, you're talking about Lego Fortnite that came out toward the end of last year. I forget if Enshrouded was this year or not, but yeah, games like that. Games like Icarus, right? Like you have more releases that are a bit higher profile in that genre for a year like this than maybe sometimes fighting games or maybe sometimes other things, right? I have best horror as another one here where maybe not every year this needs to be a category, but you can rotate it that way. You can highlight the best of for a year that was heavy in that thing. So that would be my personal fix. I don't know if that's a clean fix because I know there's also just the built-in prestige of having a category be every year.
See, that's where my counter argument why I would push back and vote against it as a change is the idea that I feel like if you already have a judging panel, which I think we need to discuss at some point, changing and how that all shakes out and yada yada. You have this judging panel that's going through and deciding already if it was a good enough year for any category. Then you're already judging the games against each other, and I think it does take away from the fact that we skipped fighting games for 2 years and then it was here. I think there needs to be a lineage of it of where it was. It's not just there when there are 3 great games. I don't even, you know what I mean? Because I think there's. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not a fighting game person.
Yeah.
I think every year there's always going to be at least one. Oh, that's a great fighting game or a fun fighting game or whatever.
Yeah.
That you'd like to give flowers.
And like,
to.
I mean, this year, I think this year is one of those years where I think it's a good category, not a great category. There have been past years where it's like, oh, Sifu gets nominated, and that's just because you run out of fighting games.
Yeah, and for right now, for best fighting game for 2024, right? Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Arcade Classics, Multiversus, and Tekken 8. So yeah, great category.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of. I could definitely see if that change were to be made in future years, people going, why is there not a best fighting game this year? Like that game is definitely good enough to have been,
given something.
Yeah, like these 2 games, it should be there that year. And I just feel like we're already we would be in that territory of needing, an early access category or should we have DLCs nominated to the game? Or for Game of the Year. I've been seeing a lot of people, obviously, over the years or over the past couple of months being angry that DLCs can be nominated. And getting angry that last year Phantom Liberty couldn't have been nominated, or even the year before that, other larger DLCs not being.
Was that true that it couldn't have been, or just wasn't?
It just wasn't.
It just wasn't. Just
making sure.
But I think a lot of people misinterpret and think that like they couldn't be nominated.
Right.
Because I saw one of those this morning too, of somebody being like, "Oh, but Cyberpunk was nominated last year," and that's just because it just wasn't nominated.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, I think that because the landscape is just so ever changing, you have to kind of pivot and be quick about things. I would love an early access category. I think that would help out a lot, especially for people like me who even on our Game of the Year list, I don't know if I want to put Hades 2, even though I probably will, but Deadlock, like there's so many of these games that I put in hours and hours into and I loved, and they're not finished products. And Tim makes a great point where it's like, well, fuck it, that's their fault for, that's the nature of what they're doing. They're putting a game on early access. If you don't get nominations when your game hits 1.0, you already sort of had that time in the limelight during early access. It's a weird
I think that
sort
could
of
even fit in
argument.
with like or most anticipated, but like maybe you replace most anticipated with something that is like the early access category of like game that came out, but a game that like is showing potential for
I like
its full release.
That's interesting, and that's another great comparison to a VMAs or a more poppy show, a Nickelodeon Kids Choice Awards, right? Where I personally would rather see an early access category rather than most anticipated, because most anticipated is just like, all right, who's had the best trailer? Who has the most hype?
It's like,
What's the
okay,
biggest
GTA
thing? Like,
6 is coming
GTA
out.
6 is going to fucking
Yeah.
win this year. Okay, cool. Like, yeah, we already knew we were excited for that. I like the minutia categories that I assume you're going to talk about more, getting away from the broad genre stuff, where your early access would be interesting as well. I would still side that if you're early access, you can still be, if people are playing your game, I think you should be eligible to be Game of the Year, whatever. You break outside of early access in the same way indie game, right? In the old days, used to be, well, you put it in the indie category. Now, of course, it could be best indie and it could be Game of the Year at the same time.
Yeah. More of the ones I crossed out. There's some that I definitely need the context as I talk about crossing them out, and I'll come to those later. But like, best family game, I feel like that's a weird one. It's just the Nintendo category, and I feel like it's not a category that I feel like is super needed at the Game Awards. You guys can disagree if I'm wrong, but like, I have that one crossed out. I have most
Well, no, I want to talk about it as you go, right? Like,
Yeah.
so family games this year, right, are Astrobot, Princess Peach, Mario Party, Jamboree, The Legend of Zelda, and The Plucky Squire, right? And I think it's an awkward category.
Yes.
I do think it needs to be tweaked. Every year we joke that it does come down to being the Nintendo category. Of course, this year there is Plucky and there is Astrobot, not Nintendo games. But it is one of like, yeah, I don't know. I understand wanting to have it in there if I'm Jeff. I understand, especially for a show that, started 10 years ago hoping, and now 10 years later is going to be talked about in USA Today and in the news somewhere, right? And you're going to have non-gamers looking at it. Family game is a powerful category there of, what if I wanted to get into games, or my son or daughter has a Switch, what should I be getting them and playing with them? I understand that there, but I do think the family game, like you say, does it need to be at Game Awards? For us watching live, excited for whatever trailers and announcements, no. But for mainstream, which Game Awards is always trying to, yes. But there has to be a better way to noodle and do it.
Yeah, I just think how no other award show has the best show for kids. When we talk about the Emmys or the Golden Globes, like that's just not a thing. But to your point, Greg, I think it is great for marketing, and it does help a lot of these games sort of be seen. And if you're a mom who has no idea about gaming, but you see that this game won Best Family Game of the Year or was nominated for Best Family Game,
And my thing is, like, I think even Best Kids Game would probably make more sense, or at least be clearer as to what it is, because I could see
Best game for kids.
Yeah, because I could see the argument for, oh yeah, like, okay, game for kids. I understand what that means. Like, there is a market for that. When the best family category comes up, right? It is for the best game appropriate for family play, irrespective of genre or platform. I still don't know what that
And
means.
to me, I interpret that as like the entire family is playing, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then usually 9 times out of 10, most of the nominees are single player games, and it's like, all right.
I guess I compare it to like when people say family friendly content.
Yeah, the game that you can trust your kids playing.
Yeah, that's I've never.
I just think it's awkwardly named. I just don't
For
think
sure.
That's my thing,
I
too.
think early on, I initially thought this has to be a Mario Party or a Mario Kart, a multiplayer thing where, all the kids from around the neighborhood are all playing together with the parents or whatever. But I have more and more understood that, no, it just means family friendly. It really is a game that you can toss on and not feel like you're going to hear a swear word.
And see, I think, again, back to, not changing what the Game Awards are, right? I think it's so simple to start trying to make them dice, make them the Oscars, do whatever. I think if they were to lean into the DNA of being the VMAs, being the Kids' Choice Awards, where they had stuff like Best Kiss, right, Best Fight
Kids
Scene.
Game Awards.
You know Jeff's noodling that. I got to be a million spinoffs he's thought about. But for this one being like, well, yeah, let's do the best game to play with kids, best game to have on in the living room with kids. Like that's something we would do. I feel as a Smiley's Award category or something like that, right? But if Jeff blew this up a little bit, right, and went away from some of these more like locked, what you'd expect, what I was doing at IGN in 2009 Game of the Year thing, and you broke those definitions out and made them broader, I think you could keep the DNA of what this already is, but make it more where you look at it and go, I get exactly what it is. Because for the longest time, yeah, family game it is, and I even voting, maybe it was. Well, I'm voting for a game to play with your family, right? Like, and so Astrobot is a single player game. Why would I say vote for your family with that one?
Yeah. I also have crossed out here, mostly anticipated game and then also best game direction. I feel like that's another one that when we get to talking about it, it feels a little bit amorphous and it feels like just a sister category to game of the year. And I feel like that's one of those ones where I think that could be replaced by something else. Like in my mind, I would replace it with like maybe best technical achievement or something, right? Something that is a bit more, I can this is more exciting to judge and talk about as far as what is the game that pushed things forward the most.
Best game direction awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design.
The Smileys has best innovation.
Yeah. And I like best
Great
innovation.
job,
And I think it's a much better idea because you nailed it. It reminds me of the Oscars it reminds me of Record of the Year or Album of the Year, that sort of thing.
And I feel like
I do agree with Blessed. These should be titles that, even though God of War stunned you the most because of its story and its characters or whatever, the game that was pushing weird tech or that other game that had wild mechanics that you never thought could work in a video game, and somehow it all sort of comes together and you're like, wow, what a creative vision. It's not Game of the Year, but I'm really impressed by that sort of thing. I think of Wayfinder. Or no, not Wayfinder.
No.
Viewfinder,
yes.
I think of Viewfinder and how stunning that was just on a technical aspect. But, the whole game wasn't incredible, but I still want it to be recognized for how awesome those devs were in making this weird sort of creative thing work.
Yeah. And if I was to swing around to another one, I could see replacing it with like best studio instead, right? Like I think best game direction, I think maybe implies a bit of, what was, I guess, the director input here? Like what was like the direction in which the studio took this thing in order to make it special?
And I feel like so many times that's not applauded or that's not right, championed. Where
Yes.
I don't think behind the scenes who at this studio or whatever, what studio is really going, this is the direction we're going and what we're doing. Yeah, I can speak for it, right? You can see the games that are nominated and be like, oh, I get that there would have been direction there. But that is a category I agree with that does feel like it's been put out with the best intentions, but it's eating up a space that could be somewhere else and could be more interesting.
Yeah. The next two I have here, I'll bundle together because for me, this is
love
like
a bundle.
This is the conversation that me and Mike were having, and Barrett, I believe too, that like got into the weeds of how do we really fix this, right? And it is for me best action and best action adventure. That's a coupling of categories that I never loved because I think best action and action adventure, and also lump in best RPG with this as well because for me it is all the same thing of. So many action adventure games have RPG mechanics. So many action adventure games, you could probably categorize also in action, right? Like, I don't know if you have Mike has here the best action adventure description, which is for the best action adventure game, combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving.
Best action game for the best games in the action genre focused on combat. For the best role-playing game, the best games designed for rich player character customization and progression, both offline and online, including massively multiplayer.
Yes. And
they're just putting so many words into the role-playing category.
And I think those three categories have so much overlap with each other, and I think they could be a bit neater. And like, I'm not going to say that I have the answer. I have like my proposal, which I think is going to still strike people the same way of like, that's still confusing. But the ones that I have here would be, I would take the RPG category. I'll split it into two categories because there's so many RPGs, and RPGs are such a big portion of like the big AAA games that come out, right? And the games that people play. I have it split into best action RPG and best turn-based RPG. The justification I have for that, for action RPG, right? It would essentially be the similar description of everything is an RPG. This is the clearest and easiest and, in my opinion, the most meaningful line that we can draw in the genre to respect how vast the genre is. And so for action RPG, it would be, game design with rich player character customization, progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. These games have real-time combat. In the examples that I give here, I am talking about games like Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I'm talking about Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm talking about Dragon's Dogma 2, Path of Exile 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think for this year, those 5 games have enough similarities to where it's like, this makes sense to compare to each other, as opposed to something like Unicorn Overlord or Metaphor ReFantazio or Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth or Persona 3 Reload. Those are the games I put in the best turn-based RPG category. I think as far as RPGs, those are different enough at their core design to where I think they deserve to be honored separately. I don't know if that's a crazy thing to say. I know Barry disagrees because we had this conversation before.
I disagree vehemently. I don't know how to say that word right now. My brain is broken.
Nailed it.
I don't know. It feels othering just because of a mechanic, and I just think that's weird.
But I think that's all video game genres, right? Like video game genres are determined by mechanics.
It's still the same genre, but they just take one mechanic and make it different. I don't know. I don't know. It feels weird to me. I think
that's video game categorization, right? Like I think the way that we create genres is by looking at mechanics. And I think, again, I look at Metaphor ReFantazio and I look at Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, and I say those are better compared to each other as opposed to either of them being compared to Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Can I jump in real quick?
Go for it.
Live chat on YouTube. Mike Jonas, turn-based RPGs are niche and not so many. Mike, you got to expand where you're looking for your video games.
Yeah.
Because this is, again, the upside to having more categories is more chances to recognize the amazing games that are happening. There are so many turn-based RPGs each and every year.
And
they're not on the scale necessarily of a Metaphor or something like that. They're a smaller game on Steam or whatever.
And this isn't from this year, but I even have Baldur's Gate 3 in this conversation, right? Like this isn't even me being like JRPG versus Western RPG. This is me saying that like I think there are like more than enough turn-based RPGs to make banger categories. Like if I'm just talking about this year and I remove Baldur's Gate 3 there, I'm sure there's another I can replace, but Persona 3 Reload, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Unicorn Overlord. Like if I search, I'm sure I'll bring up Shin Megami Tensei Revengeance, and I'm sure there are like even higher profile games that I'm not thinking about right now. But
I think if I don't hate it, but my only thing is then we would have to get granular with every genre.
And someone brings up
there would be best shooter, there would be Metroidvania.
Best shooter I have here. The reason I have it for RPG and not those other ones though is because RPG is such a big genre. Like find me another genre that's that high profile that is as big.
Yeah.
And it's not even, I'm with you, and I agree with you. It's not even the genre as much as the way RPG mechanics have infiltrated everything.
Yes.
Every game, you have a skill tree now. You're leveling something up. You're doing whatever. And I'm not saying they should all be lumped in here either, but it is that idea of, I do think action game, action adventure, and role-playing, to toss in for the argument, bleed together so much that, again, 10 years into the Game Awards, and again, decades into honoring games at the end of the year, I feel like the lines are so blurred that it's worth trying to figure out a way to go through and see these things.
The other one,
and to jump in here and keep going, right? One of the things I do feel is like, well, then what about shooter? What about that? That's where you start to get into, I would say, yeah, let's really, again, I'd like to honor more games. I'd like to showcase more games, but at what point does it become no longer what the Game Awards is trying to do? Remember, the Game Awards is trying to be mainstream. It's trying to get through a whole bunch of different content as fast as possible while also selling you stuff and also hyping you up. And there's so many masters the Game Awards is trying to serve that this sounds awesome again for the Smileys, for us, for doing a Game Awards in quote show that goes on all week, like something Giant Bomb kind of does, right? But like getting into the minutia of what these things are and talking about it.
To the shooter argument, like one of the ones that I have here in this conversation is adding best shooter as a category. I think there are more shooter games than fighting games in a year. When we're talking about just 2024, you got Call of Duty Black Ops, you got Helldivers 2, you got I Am Your Beast, Stalker 2, and Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. I think those are all games that I think those games make sense to categorize with each other. And I think that's a genre that is popular enough, that is widespread enough, that it is worth like looking at as a genre worth awarding and honoring.
Don't forget about
you would put Stalker 2 in the same category as like multiplayer shooters?
I've not played much Stalker 2, admittedly. So like that's just me knowing that you shoot things in that game. Okay. But yeah, I would put it in that category. And like the other one I have here would be like action adventure, right? Like my beef with it is mainly having both action and action adventure. I'll just put action adventure as one thing and have it encompass it all, right? So I look at that, and the examples I have for that would be Hellblade 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Black Myth Wukong, and Astrobot. Right, like the games where it is you're going on a journey and there is action involved in that thing.
What's
up, Barry?
It means nothing. Action adventure means nothing anymore.
Oh, it means best action adventure games combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving.
That's like fucking every game. We're getting back to the RPG conversation.
Sometimes you're puzzle solving, sometimes you're traversing. You're not doing both. That's
exactly.
fine.
Sometimes there aren't enough. Like
So-
I wouldn't look at Prince of Persia: Lost Crown and say that's an RPG.
Some games are 80%, traversal and puzzle solving, and 20% combat, and some games are the other half. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
The other half, 20%.
Hate you. Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, what do you want changed at the Game Awards? I need your super chats, of course. You can super chat on youtube.com/kindafunnygames if you're watching live to be part of the show. And of course, why not get a membership while you're there? With the Kinda Funny membership, either on patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames, you can get all of our shows ad-free. You can get the ability to watch the afternoon podcast like Friday's Craven the Hunter in review, or your daily dose of me in a series we call Greg Way. But right now, you're not using your benefits, so here's a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Imperial. Imperial is a complex, challenging, feature-rich action RPG. In a far-flung corner of the galaxy, an expedition arrives on a hitherto unexplored planet to find a colossal monolith built by a lost civilization. There are no more ruins. The monolith is filled with danger, and the expedition is ill-equipped to unearth the secrets within. All eyes turn towards an elite mercenary who may succeed where all others have failed. Venture inside the monolith and face the automatons that yet remain, remnants of the impossibly ancient civilization that built this unknowable structure. Survive and uncover revelations that transform our understanding of humanity itself. Imperial features a memorable cast of characters with personal quest lines and multiple endings for each one. Of course, you can unlock new abilities to personalize your playstyle and upgrade and modify the loot that you find. Your only hope of victory lies in mastering a unique and complex combat system. So get on it. You can wishlist Imperial now on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. Wishlist Imperial today. This episode's brought to you by Aura Frames. Isn't it funny how the people we love most are often the hardest to shop for? Luckily, there's one gift that everyone on your list is sure to enjoy: an Aura digital picture frame. Aura frames make it incredibly easy to share unlimited photos and videos directly from your phone to the frame. And when you give an Aura frame as a gift, you can personalize and preload it with a thoughtful message and photos using the Aura app, making it an ideal present for long-distance loved ones. Greg, Kevin, and a ton of people at Kinda Funny are obsessed with their Aura frames. It takes about 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. That means you'll be able to easily add all the photos of the new memories that you will create this holiday season. Save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using promo code KINDAFUNNY at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code KINDAFUNNY. This deal is exclusive to listeners, so get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions apply. auraframes.com, promo code KINDAFUNNY.
And we're back. Blessing, what else you got from me category-wise?
You want to get it controversial?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I'm the most controversial man in video game criticism.
He is,
2024.
My most controversial statement: we got to figure out this independent thing. we got to figure out. This year, not
gotta
as much of
figure
a
it out.
problem, but like last year, I think the hubbub was so crazy that like I don't know. And then this is,
Dave the Diver.
and that's the thing is like I don't have an answer. I just have like a 1-paragraph manifesto of like what the issues are, which is for like right
manifesto.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
buzzword that's been in me.
Yeah, that, he got that from Twitter.
I've been reading a lot about manifestos recently.
Luigi.
And weirdly enough, Luigi as well.
Hey man, he's back. So of course, right now it says on the website for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher system, which is in theory, I think, a good pitch for best independent game, but in practice, I think it's a bit messy when we get into the minutia because is Pentiment independent when it was published by Xbox? Is Cyberpunk 2077 independent when it's published by CD Projekt Red, right? Like it's self-published thing. Is a game independent when it's published by Devolver?
And that's what I mean. You can jump right into what we're looking at here, right? So this year's nominees: Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50, right? And so you look at this, and the first ones that jump out to me, and these games are independent, obviously, because the studios are independent and not owned by anybody, yada, yada, yada. And they're working with independent labels like Annapurna Interactive and Devolver. Annapurna being Lorelei, Neva being Devolver. But it is that idea of like, produced outside the traditional publisher system. This is in 2024 the traditional publisher system.
Yes.
Like I understand that Annapurna and Devolver
Raw
work with
Fury, all that,
independent game studios to publish independent games, and that's fucking awesome, and I love it. But it doesn't. That is now traditional. That is normal. That isn't weird anymore. Me and Andy could tomorrow be like, we're starting an independent label, and we should. But it wouldn't be like, oh my God, it'd be crazy for us, obviously, but it wouldn't be weird in the industry.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if they want to do this, I would blow it up and change it to self-published. Best
Interesting.
self-published game.
But doesn't that get, because for me that comes back to Baldur's Gate 3, I believe, was self-published. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There's going to be things like that you run into.
Like the Cyberpunk thing, like Cyberpunk / The Witcher, like big studios, AAA studios that are publishing their own projects. Do we then just ignore them? Do we go? Gentleman's agreement.
And
Let's
like
act like
Animal
these don't
Well
exist.
wasn't self-published. Like that was
Big
team
Mode.
That,
But I mean, that's my thing where, again, like, I think you're into an interesting one of how you do this. Like how big the studio is, studio size. Like, it's getting
pitch,
weird, but
the pitch that I have written down here, and this is again another weird one, and we'll get to it, is, I'm in favor of, like you're saying, blowing it up and maybe even changing it to best indie game as opposed to best independent, and defining it as games developed without a AAA means of production.
And see, there you go. Yeah. That I think would solve it, because that would also then, you're in that sense kicking out Baldur's Gate, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay,
Baldur's Gate,
we're
we
kicking
say
out Baldur's
AAA.
Gate. What about Supergiant? Are you keeping in?
I mean, would you say that's where this gets hairy. Is because then we need to define AAA.
Yeah.
And can we look into, we don't have access to the budgets.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think if you want to be nominated, you send all your books to fucking Keeley. Keeley has financial advisors looking over and be like, you know what? This spent enough money to be categorized as an indie thing. Done deal. You know what I mean? If there's a lot of zeros in that budget, sorry. Double A,
here,
AAA.
fat cat.
The fuck out of here.
We don't want this shit.
Because for me, I do think, and maybe Pentiment might be a bad example because I've not played it, so I don't know how much juice is in that game as far as the production and AAA-ness of it.
Of Pentiment?
Of Pentiment, yeah.
Very good.
Would you look at that and go,
Well, it's
indie
good,
game?
yeah, but how much
That's not, to me, definitively, that is not an indie
I'm
game.
not saying based on it being published by Xbox. I'm saying based on just would you believe an indie developer made it?
Erase all the information you know about it, and you look at
I think
a
that's
minute-long
an
clip.
unfair question, though.
Oh, that's okay.
Because then we're just defining indie game by the vibes of it.
Small
I guess,
budget.
Okay, well, I guess removing Pentiment
I mean,
from
Dave the Diver got nominated last year.
Dave
by
the Diver.
by vibes.
Dave the Diver would be my example then of is the solution to go let's look at games that are made by smaller teams.
You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
But that's vibes.
I don't think that should be how that's described, because then, Pentiment should be indie game because it looks like an indie game, and I just don't think that's, I don't know.
I agree. That's why I was so against Dave the Diver last year. Great game.
I'm basically trying to find any common ground as far as is it the team size? Is it the level of budget, which we don't have access to?
This is
and we
another
can't
one where
decide?
I think it's a weird solution, but again, getting it, blowing up this category along with the several others, and then making space for more genre-based categories like you're talking about, of turn-based RPG, regular RPG, not regular RPG, Western RPG. You know what I'm saying? If you then went in and did stuff like that, of best pixel art game, and I'm not saying that's the solution, but I am saying let's get specific. The problem with the Game Award categories right now is that they're very vague, where they are general, and you run into this where you read it doesn't mean anything, and then I read the description, that means everything, and it's that's where you're at, is that you can't read these categories and go instantaneously, I know exactly what that is. Best game direction, you're like, what? And you read about it, okay, I'm gonna go do that, and da-da-da-da-da.
Another controversial one. I might get booed out the room for this one. Add best expansion. And just not have don't have expansions and DLC be eligible for Game of the Year.
Yeah,
I love that.
I'd boo you for that one.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
because I'm on your side, Greg. Of I think expansions should be honored, but I think there's been enough hubbub from audiences, and even just reading chat, reading Reddits, reading I think enough people are mad that this is one of those ones where I'm I'll throw you a bone.
But here's my thing where it's I would do it in the same way we did with the other one. It's gone. But it was the other hypothetical one of, all right, cool, we're doing best expansion as a category, right? But that can still be nominated for Game of the Year. That can still be nominated for best whatever. It's putting it over here to do something with it. My problem with the hubbub of
Scuttlebutt,
Shadow of the Erd Tree, what the streets are saying, right, is the fact that it's just, to me, I've lived long enough to go back through the Matrix, where when it was that indie games can't be nominated for Game of the Year, a downloadable game can't be nominated for this because it has its own category. It's like, you bought this game and played this game. Yeah, but I would have also had to have bought this thing and played 60 hours. Who the fuck? You would have had to buy the PlayStation exclusive. You have to buy the PlayStation to play that. Like, we're just getting caught up on things that there's no reason. Why are we getting caught up on this? There's no reason to get caught up. And I also think that this is such a rare example. Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty was not available to be nominated last year, correct? Right?
Oh,
yeah.
it was.
Yeah. So, I mean,
but
it didn't. It didn't get Game of the Year. This year, Erd Tree is so good that it got, okay. Why are we mad about that?
I'm definitely with Greg, where it's like my defense for why I had it voted or whatever, like why I think it should be nominated is because I don't have an expansion category. And because I don't have an expansion category, I'm not going to not nominate one of the best gaming experiences I've had all year. Like that, it's a no-brainer that Erd Tree deserves recognition. And then what I really, really hate is like, yeah, but Elden Ring already got a lot of love. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm still gonna praise the thing that I really
step
enjoyed.
Your shit up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Dragon Age Veilguard, you should have been better. I don't know. What do you want me to say to that?
My devil's advocate argument for it would be that I think there are certain games though that just have so much sauce to them. And again, I don't believe in this argument as I make
best
it.
Sauce category.
But like best sauce. There's some games like I feel like you create the scenario where every year, like if Elden Ring had an expansion come out every 2 years, that's going to be in the best games category or Game of the Year category every 2 years, right? Like I think you're setting up these games that, have the notoriety, have the popularity, have like this chokehold on the industry to then make that return into Game of the Year every other year in a way that can just make that category less exciting for like the actual genuinely new games that are coming out year to year. That's like
I hear you.
Yeah.
But my argument would be the same. Of those new games should be better. Like, and it's
Yeah,
I mean,
I
like,
agree with that.
and I'm not like trying to be insulting, but it's the case. And not to mention, Elden Ring isn't going to do that. We're not going to have it 2 years, right? And not to mention, this is the same argument that if we ever want to talk about categories and how to judge this, which is a whole argument, right? Is the fact that like when the best ongoing support comes out, I'm always flooded with people who are like, if this was a real category, it would be World of Warcraft, blah, blah, but nobody's playing that anymore. No one's playing. There's these games that are still thriving and going, but no one's playing that. So it's like Fortnite is easy because this got a giant update and everybody came back to play it. So obviously that's going to get nominated when in reality, some people who are in these communities would argue this over here.
I'd be totally down with expansion of the year. Because
Would you then say it's not nominatable for Game of the Year?
I wouldn't say it shouldn't be, but I personally would not put it in Game of the Year.
Interesting.
Like, I'm putting it there only because that's the only place it can really be recognized, along with like action adventure or whatever.
That's a really good point.
But if I had just the expansion category, that's where I would put it, and then I wouldn't put it in Game of the Year. But because I don't have that, I'm not gonna not nominate it. It's like I'm not gonna punish it because you don't have a category or whatever.
Yeah, right now there's not a way to nominate a shout.
And I still feel like it deserves recognition.
I agree with that.
Also, community support and ongoing game.
That's another one I have here.
Let's meld it.
I have best community support just crossed out. Like we got best ongoing game. And yeah,
you figure they're
Okay.
I mean, like, unless you want to say best community management. You know what I mean? Community, because what's their definition?
But that's also really odd because, no, I guess never mind. I was gonna say we don't recognize best art teams, but we do.
Best community support, recognizing a game and studio for outstanding community support and transparency, inclusive of social media activity and game. I lost my updates and patches. Versus ongoing, which is awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience. Again, one of the problems I think with this is the best whatever isn't descriptive enough. This is what we've talked about with a few different categories. This is another one where when you read it, you go, okay, I see the difference. But when you look at the thing, it doesn't make sense. So again, best community management, which I think you could just change the title and then it would be social media and what they're doing inside of the game to communicate. Cool. That makes sense to me.
The one last thing I have here is more for me, more of like a semantics thing. And I just want
Best blessing.
let me just put the sample on the table, let you guys taste it and see how you feel about it. All right. Game of the Year. I would change it to best game. I think Game of the Year is one of those, like, I feel like best game feels a bit more formalized for what we're doing here. And it feels a bit more, all right, we got to make an objective statement about what is the best game that came out this year. Game of the Year feels like more of a popularity contest to me. And if you wanted to keep it, maybe that becomes the fan voted thing and it gets a bit demoted in terms of like the prestige of it. But I feel like best game feels a bit more award show appropriate. Because like
Interesting.
VMA, and correct me, does VMAs have album of the year or is it best album? Or is it like song
Well,
of the year?
VMAs is Video Music Awards, right?
Yeah.
So they want to. Oh, so that is your question.
Yeah, I guess
okay.
we'll like, or I know, I was gonna say
They do
Oscars.
Video of the Year.
Oh, do they?
I think so, right?
And that's one I don't care about as much, but it's one that I just want to put because I've always been like, I don't know. I like the idea of doing a best game
video
category.
Yeah, MTV Video Music Award for Video of the Year. Yeah.
So you're talking more about, one category is recognizing what you think is the overall best video game, and one is more of like this captured the zeitgeist.
Yes, almost like Times Person of the Year, right? Like, I think Game of the Year should be more of the, hey, this is like the game that defines 2024, but best game is this is the fucking, like, this game was developed as fuck right here. Like, this game fucking brought the fucking sauce, and it's the best thing that we played this year.
What would be your game that brought the sauce, Mike?
This year?
Yeah. Hell World. Let's train together.
Man, shout out.
Because I think Helldivers 2
Helldivers brought the
kind
sauce.
of had the largest moment of the year, but I wouldn't say that that's game of or best game. But also GOTY is just so nice to say.
GOTY is nice to say.
Goaty.
We
This
gotta
is
have
the one
GOTY.
that
I wouldn't get rid of Game of the Year. I would keep Game of the Year.
Yeah. This is one I didn't cook on as much. This is just one that I had the thought of like, I could see us trying to like maybe make it like a Times Person thing of the year.
Because I think best game also feels like best picture for the Oscars, and like again, I feel like there's a little bit of separation of what the Game Awards actually are versus like what we perceive them to be, and a lot of people equate it to the Oscars when it's not really,
That's fair.
So, yeah.
That's all I had for categories.
Okay.
I think I crossed out more things, but
Great job going in depth on that one.
Yeah.
thank you. I was
like
bored
that,
last
Bless.
night.
I like that you really thought about that. That's good.
Triforce guy in the YouTube chat says Helldivers fell off hard, and that's what I fucking hate about an ongoing game that
That's the what?
still completely overachieved in what it was trying to
I think
do, where it was so relevant for so long, but it wasn't relevant in the right time. If Helldivers came out in October, it would still have the moment.
Yeah, Fell Off Hard is such a fucking real.
No, it had its moment in the sun. Yeah, it was
I have
great.
my PlayStation says I've done like 75 hours of Helldivers. Gary has more than 1,000 because he kept playing and never stopped. Like there's a community that has never stopped. It's just
Yeah.
not that zeitgeist. Everyone's playing it. Everyone's streaming. It's still going. And also, who cares? Are we saying it's the best, the most fun you had, the best game of the year? Like every game goes away at some point.
Exactly.
Shadow of the Retreat fell off hard. Like what are you talking about? Like no,
Yeah.
people beat it and moved on to the other thing.
It's like when everybody was like, man, Black Myth Wukong already. It's like, well, everybody's asleep. Like, that's where the player count went. Yeah.
I want to get some super chats in. Remember, of course, if you want to be part of this show, youtube.com/kindafunnygames. You can super chat to be in here. Zeke Speak says, uproar instigates change. He's talking about the feedback when Game Awards is happening and then after the fact. Some of it's dumb, yeah. But Jeff not mentioning layoffs, wrap it up while folks are giving tearful speeches, it was tone deaf, downright rude, and trying so hard to be the Oscars that it was embarrassing. I disagree. I think, again, Jeff not mentioning layoffs. So what was it?
That was 2022, right? Because last year he did mention layoffs.
Yeah? I'm trying to remember if it was that or if it was at Summer
Game
Game
Fest.
Fest.
Oh, was it SGF?
I don't know.
Really?
I think
I
so.
forget.
I can't remember.
Whatever the
whatever.
most recent thing was, Jeff went on stage and talked about the turmoil and layoffs and employees and game devs and company.
Yeah.
There was a speech that happened. I don't know.
That was chat saying SGF.
Yeah, I think it was that.
Thank
shit.
you.
Damn,
Okay.
really? I could have sworn that was Game Awards.
Well, I remember, so the iterating off it, I'm more hung up on the wrap it up while giving tearful speeches is tone deaf, downright rude, and trying so hard to be the Oscars. What's interesting about this and the Game Awards is that I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I'll say it until something changes. Jeff cares more about his shows than I think anybody gives him credits for. And so I think you look at last year's Game Awards and he said, what does everybody think about it? And they were like, you should have fucking talked about layoffs. So at SGF, he talks about layoffs, right? I think there's a struggle there of when you're trying to do a polished award show. And again, I love the Game Awards. Jeff's always been nice to us, except that when he's mean to Mike. But it's that thing of, with all due respect to Jeff is not the lightning rod of controversy, nor is he the man who comes out and speaks from his heart, off his cuff, or whatever. I think it's weird for Jeff at the Game Awards to come out and talk about layoffs. I'm glad he found a way at SGF answering what the criticisms were, because whether he likes it or not, he is the not the founding father. He's the figurehead of games, right? In terms of talking about it, like he has a platform that none of us will ever have. So I'm glad he found a way to do it, but I don't look to him to ever be cutting edge doing, because again, I think that's what the Game Awards are and what Jeff is. The wrap it up thing is a direct response to everyone being like, this award show is too fucking long. These speeches are going too long. Every one of you who made fun of Chris Judge's speech while Al Pacino held the statue, that is a direct response to this. And I imagine, even though I have no inside information whatsoever, that this year you will see the speeches be longer, but still have the just wrap it up thing. And you have to play music, because otherwise people like me won't shut the fuck up. We will just keep talking.
Yeah, we addressed a lot of this as well, like immediately, where it was an overcorrection, and that's all it was. And I don't think a bigger deal needs to be made out of it. I think the memes were funny, and
the fact of it was downright rude. It wasn't meant to be rude. It was meant to keep the show moving.
Yeah, it was. I just think it was an overcorrection where it's like you just move that slider a little bit more.
Let's go from 60 seconds to 90 to 2 minutes.
And that's
2 minutes.
and
I
that's
think
it.
is
And that's
totally
all it
that's
takes.
the thing.
Yeah.
I think just because he didn't mean for it to be rude doesn't mean that it wasn't rude. Like, as a viewer, I was like, oh man, this feels rude. Like, I think for most people watching, they were like, oh, this feels disrespectful to the people on stage. I know Jeff doesn't mean it to be disrespectful, right? Like, he cares in that way.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can look at, like, I don't think we can tell people to not feel like he didn't disrespect people by doing that, when, like, that is the thing that it comes off as to most people.
Intent doesn't equal impact.
Yeah.
In terms of, yeah.
So, like, and I as far as like the overblownness of it, yeah, like, I think he's heard it loud and clear. Like, I'm with you that I think he's going to change it for this year. But, like, that's one that I 100% understand from people, as far as coming out of it being like, damn, fuck that. Like, you only gave these developers a minute to speak. Like, yeah, it's a response to the Christopher Judge thing. Yeah, it's a response to the length. But, like, I think when people are asking to cut down on the length of the Game Awards, I don't think they mean cut down on the length of the speeches. That's one of the things that people ask for the most, right? People want to hear the developers speak. People want to hear the developers, like, get highlighted on stage. I think people are just like,
see, I think
with
a lot of
ads or
vocal
whatever.
people say that. I don't think that's what the majority of the audience wants. And
Then why do
again,
you
this is serving multiple people. They're watching
Yeah.
for the announcements. They're watching for their
Yeah, but
favorite game to win.
But then call it the game announcements. Like, you're watching the Game Awards, like, you're gonna watch awards. Like,
this
I
is
think
back-
that should be the expectation of
I
it.
hear you, but you're still getting the awards this way. To blow back again and try to defend the Game Awards on this, to defend Jeff on this. People last year who were nominated were told you will have 60 seconds. So I think there is an argument there of them being disrespectful to the show, which I know sounds crazy and I'm sure I'll get crucified for. But a great example is when I won my Game Award. I went up there and I fucking went. And there was no timer and there was no nothing and it was great, right? Everybody loved me and it was fantastic. When I won the South by Southwest award, I had a different speech where I was going to honor our community. And I got up there and I go into it. And if you go back and watch that, I go, yeah, I'd like to thank Amy. Oh, fuck, I'm almost out of time, because there was a clock down there that was counting down. And so rather than do my thing, I stopped and I thanked who I needed to thank and I was done. Like, there's a push and pull to this. And I'm not saying anybody's got it right, nor was I am also saying that the people who got up there and talked longer than 60 seconds, I do not think that they were downright rude. I am not saying that. But I am saying that there needs to be an acknowledgement from both sides of this. And it'll be interesting this year to see how they change it. And if it is if it is still 60 seconds or if it is 2 minutes or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, I think a change will be made for sure, and I think that's all that needs to, happen.
Aaron Knight says dice is better. That's right, because we don't give a shit. We're all drunk. Talk as long as you want.
We're taking shooters.
When
all
Christopher
night.
Judge went up, it was me, Mark Cerny, and Phil Spencer backstage laughing. This is great.
Arm wrestling.
This is awesome.
I think going back to
Please.
the point of
Please.
Jeff Keighley saying something on stage about the layoffs, right? Like, I do see your point. I do think that this is one of those Spider-Man scenarios of, with great power comes great responsibility. And to your point, like, Jeff is the figurehead of this shit, right? Like, Jeff might not have chose to be like, hey, he might not be choosing to want to talk about, like, the layoffs and do all that stuff here, but he did choose to be the figurehead of the industry, right? He did make all the decisions to then become the face of all this. I think when you are, what is required of you is to, I think, speak to what's going on in the industry and listen to what the streets are saying and try to communicate that in a way that could inspire people, could uplift people. And if he doesn't want to say it, because, like, I understand also of him being like, I am not that person, get somebody on stage who will. You don't have to, like, I don't think he has to be the one to say it if he wants to bring on a different voice, if he wants to bring on a Greg Miller, if he wants to bring on somebody who can make that speech or make a segment in the show to do that. I think he has that power, and I think that is a worthwhile thing to think about and a worthwhile thing to do.
Well, this is another one I think that's interesting with the conversation about fixing or changing or whatever the Game Awards, right? I think sometimes, to its detriment, Jeff is too hands off, because that's my point of right. Like, of course, even the Game Awards being a zebra, not a camel, right? Jeff is the same way of like, I just don't expect that from Jeff because when you look at his Twitter, he's promoting the Game Awards, SGF, randomly some PlayStation news that'll put out that he's like talking about. He's never like, hey, I did this or that's fucked up or this, that, unless it's Kojima, blah, blah, blah. Like, so I think that, the show, I just don't expect to be infused with any of that from a production standpoint because Jeff would never do that, I think, right? Good or bad, right? But then it's the idea that like, since he's not going to, it then falls to the people giving their speeches if they want to bring it up or do something with it. But you're up there for 60 seconds and you're trying to honor your team and all the things. And how do you rope that in and make it make sense, right? In a way that actually works for it, in a way that is whatever you're trying to do and what the Game Awards are. And the Game Awards could be that, but aren't. And it's the same thing where I think Jeff's too hands off in what we're talking about with categories, right? Where Jeff sends out the categories, and remember, Jeff Keighley doesn't vote in this. Jeff sends out the things to the panel of judges he's selected and worked with or whatever, and then they all vote. And so when it comes back, that's why I at least I think, in particular this year at nominations, right? What was it, Game of the Year? When he was like, I want to remind you, I don't vote in these because it was like, he was already like, this is a weird selection of games of the year, but this is what came in and this is how it nets out. Mm-hmm. Jordan likes you, Mike.
Hello, Jordan. Thank you.
CJ Splitson says, new diverse guest host like the Oscars. That is an interesting question of I wonder how long Jeff hosts
that's what I was going to drive to as well, where like I love that Jeff has built this like trio shows that you have throughout the year, and like he is the face of it. He is doing it every single time. I do think that it is getting to the point of I would love to see somebody else like step in for at least one of these things every year, right? Like I know he has Sydney Goodman
always on the pre-show,
doing the pre-show, like
Bosman.
I would love to see Sydney Goodman maybe host the main show, right? Or somebody else step in and host the main show. I would love to see him like build up people that can take those reins and be the faces of it, because I do think that he has the power, he has the opportunity to bring in more diverse faces to actually being the hosts of these things.
When does that happen? Year 15? Year 20?
I hope
when
it happens.
He takes the back step and just produces it all instead, is right.
I think in the next few years. Yeah. I think soon. Okay. I would hope soon. My request would be soon. Get out of here, Jeff.
I'm taking requests now on what we're doing. We have a couple here about Games for Impact. We'll go with Aaron Lime. Games for Impact needs more clarification as a genre. As it's currently used, it feels more like a feel-good indie category. He says twee feel-good indie category. I don't know what that. Games for Impact, how do we feel about this category, everybody? Right now, this year, it's Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Tales of Kinzera Zao, and Closer the Distance. Of course, the official description of what it is no longer on my screen, but it is for a thought-provoking game with a profound pro-social meaning or message. Games in this category should be somewhat non-traditional and focus on creating an experience with a deep, meaningful, and message.
That's one of the ones I had crossed out that I didn't mention during the segment earlier, but I did. I am of the mind of I don't think we need that category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels like best story, but like it's kind of weird. And it like has like, I don't know, not a typical just hero's journey type of thing.
Indie category that isn't an action roguelite.
Zeke says nebulous, condescending, and unhelpful, which I get the vibe of. Again, I like the granular stuff because I want more games to get in there, so it isn't the same dozen games that are getting nominated throughout a million different categories or whatever, but I don't hate it.
I would love a lot more. I'm with you, Greg, that I love the granularity of some of these, nomination categories, but I do understand that the show would then become 17 hours long,
Yeah. Go.
Sorry,
No, please.
you just reminded me of something that I think Remap was talking about that I would love is for some of these specific categories, like if we were to keep a Games for Impact or best fighting game, I would like another recommendation I would say is or best like sim strategy game. Get the experts from these outlets to come together to discuss the nominations for these things, rather than an entire outlet who is like, I don't know how each outlet does their own like nominations and all this stuff, but like I don't know, it just feels weird where it's like everybody might have, from one outlet, might have played Unicorn Overlord,
Yep.
and that was just like the one thing that they played and all that stuff. So
Motor World Hype super chats and says racing and sports shouldn't be combined into one category. It makes no sense that a Mario Kart or Need for Speed game would go up against Madden or NBA 2K game. Luckily, that didn't happen this year, but the fact remains. And I think that's a great way to piggyback off what Barrett's talking, to talk a bit about the judges, right? The judges are up on Game Awards. Kind of funny as a judge. Hooray for us. But it's IGN, GameSpot, a bunch of international things, yada, yada, yada. And Barrett just hit, I think, a big nail on the head for why so many categories are combined, why people like, see if it was a fighting game, you know what I mean? There is this idea that when you have to boil down these votes to, hey, here's what's going on, here's this company's opinion, right? And again, we're an 11-person company. IGN is how many people on the editorial board. You know, you have gamertag radio voting, and I don't know who officially with Danny is. You know, there's all these different sizes and scopes and things that are happening. I think it would be a very interesting and perhaps necessary take moving forward to be like, cool, these are all the outlets we work with. And Game of the Year, yeah, they all come together and they vote as an outlet. But for your JRPG category, for your fighting game thing, for your racing game category, we are taking people from those things and putting them together as the panel to vote and decide, rather than coming together to also cast a vote here. Like, we're always great, I feel, as a company of, I'm abstaining from this category, I don't know it, or, you know, overall nominations or something like that. But the idea that, like, it would be, all right, cool, I'm sending, and it could be Andy and Mike are the representatives for Kind of Funny, for Kind of Funny's one vote to do, that doesn't make sense because that's how it works for us. But you understand what I'm saying of, we need expert analysis so that it isn't Sifu and fighting category, which I don't think makes sense, even though I'm not fighting games. You know, it's a different...
I know for I did the BAFTA Game Awards. Like, I judged for one of the categories in like 2021 or 2022. I forget which one. And it was like that, where not necessarily, because like my category I think was like the EE Game of the Year, which is the fan. So we figure out the nominees and then the fans vote for it. So it's like the fan voted one.
Yeah.
But they did bring in a group of 6 to 8 of us that they had reached out to individually to discuss in a room and figure out what those categories were going to be. So like, and I'm sure a lot of a lot of award shows are like that. I think that's the right move. Yeah, I think like I think you have the capability to do it, right? Especially for those categories that are best fighting game or those categories where you look at them and immediately go, that doesn't seem right. Like, that happens all the time. For best fighting game, I forget what it was. Like, Sifu was one of those situations, but even before that, I remember like tweeting out like, what the fuck are these nominees? And somebody else one of my friends who's in like the fighting game community DM'd me, and they're like, dude, what the fuck is up with the nominees? And I was like, hey man, I don't
fight
know.
in that game though, so you know.
Yeah. Like, people like
Put Elden Ring in there too.
generally, I think you can make some of these nomination lists better, like more quality, if you reach out to people directly.
I think if the game is F1 or NASCAR related, then it goes in the sports category. But if it's a Mario Kart, it does not. Give me the vote.
Arcade sports game. Best arcade racing.
Best family game.
Best family game. I thought in family.
I forget who it was.
Figured it out.
Somebody on the social media spaces had put something up of like, the flaw in the company outlets in voting or whatever is that you inevitably get to, here's the best thing I played for work. Here's the best thing I was assigned. Not here's the best thing I played, because of course I talk about this all the time, that I want to go play this, but I need to go play these things. And so I play these things, and that builds up my knowledge base for the year on what I had to play for review, but not necessarily getting back to go. I booted with Ben Zelda, and I haven't actually made it even out of the intro of Zelda. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing, where it's like, that then gets to a voting point where it's like, well, I've heard great things about Game X that Andy's talking about, but I haven't. So you have to either be ready to, I'm rocking for this thing because I think it's that good, or I need to stand down and let Andy's voice be louder because he's awesome.
Thanks, man.
You are
Just shorter games, you know? That's what it really comes down to.
Sure.
I'd have time to play all these damn games if, you know. Well, I mean, I got to blame myself because I'm the one who put 40 and 60 hours into Enshrouded and Nightingale and Deadlock, and 90 hours with Deadlock, so many early access games. Yeah. That needs its own category, early access.
Well,
that's the one that I would...
Like us. I mean, Path of Exile too. Come on, let's get it in the Game of the Year.
It's too late for an early access. It's too late for that. It's in a different fiscal calendar for me. Like
Path of Exile.
Should that be a Smiley category?
Smiley.
Best early access.
Best early access.
All right, I'm
I
writing it
like
down.
it. Throw it up. Throw it on there.
We started. The Smileys are coming back, everybody. I
hope
if they
I
were
remember
before
how to-
Game of the Year, after our Game of the Year. I forget.
Hope I remember how to render that little 3D smiley.
Oh, you'll
He's
figure it
gonna
out
figure it
again.
out.
You'll figure it out
on the wall,
I'm trusting you.
Well, our final comment comes from Somebody else added it. No, I'm not doing that. Nestlehan, who says, the show is too long because of random celebrities who couldn't give a fuck not having a time limit, while indie devs don't get a speech at all. Now, what I would counter with is, of course, the random celebrities are very much on book. They are reading whatever's in the prompter and going away. So I don't think that is. Yeah. And then I would also pivot back to, yes, because it's a zebra, not a camel. All right? That's what the Game Awards are.
That's beautiful.
Exactly.
I'm definitely not on the mind of people who are like, oh, we need no celebrities in this thing, or we need way less celebrities. I think sadly, you need the celebrities.
I'll never forget Michelle Rodriguez. Tekken, come on.
Tekken, yeah.
Come on.
I guess, like, I think as of recent times, we've had, like, the correct selections, I would say. Like,
it's not when you go back and you watch Spike TV and it's like, here's Elijah Dushku to talk about Uncharted. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I feel like recently it's been an okay, selection. I do think that when people talk about celebrities taking the most time, it really was just Simu Liu going on really long because he loves video games or whatever.
There?
Simu Liu did that one. He did an advertising. He talked about some sort of like
mobile game ad.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was like a top-down sort of RTS.
Was that
sort
the
of game.
ad that went on forever?
No, that's the one with Ken Jeong and
yes, that's what I'm
Chris
thinking.
Hemsworth was in that
did
one
have
as
chickens
well.
in it or something?
Yes,
sure
it did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
There's also Anthony Mackie as well. Chat reminded me.
He was in the game?
No, like he was
Anthony
also at the
Mackie.
Game Awards and had a.
This year they got Snoop Dogg though.
They do have Snoop Dogg.
Anthony Mackie
Snoop
needed to
Dogg.
tone it down. That was one where it's like, Anthony Mackie, you got to understand your lane. You got to understand that, like, Steph Curry can shoot 3-pointers from wherever because he's really good at it. You got to understand what you're good at, Anthony Mackie, and I don't think you're like. He's on stage trying to be a
I like
comedian.
the way he's saying it.
Yeah, what's trying to say about Anthony Mackie?
He's trying to be a comedian up
That's
there.
Falcon.
It's like Anthony Mackie, you're good in Marvel movies, but I don't need you improving. You know,
That's a lot of shade at Anthony Mackie. What did he do
I got
to you?
beef with
What
Anthony
did he do to
Mackie.
you?
I got
You
beef
steal
with
your girl.
Mackie.
What did Anthony Mackie do?
I got beef with the Mac Dog. You know, it's just Mac truck.
Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, that's the Gamescast in the books. Your final Kind of Funny Gamescast before the Game Awards tomorrow. Remember, of course, we'll be starting the day late with Kind of Funny Games daily streaming and then going live around 4 o'clock for our reaction. So we'll be live during the pre-show for Game Awards, live throughout the Game Awards, and then, of course, doing our post-show analysis Gamescast immediately following. We hope you come join us live to be part of the chats, but if you want to watch it on your own private time and then come to see our reactions, no big deal. Of course, everything's live and later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. You can watch on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames live. And of course, there'll be podcast versions of all the shows up for your listening pleasure. No matter where you get Kind of Funny, thank you for your support. Consider picking up that membership to get everything ad-free. And of course, keep the lights and mics on for our 11-person small business. We're all about live talk shows, which means we're not done by a long shot. Gamescast is ending, and we're going right into first-person Fortnite, where I'm going to be better than Nick. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you. I will be.
Love you, Anthony Mackie.